Hi everyone. I- I'm Nivathan. I work as an implementation engineer at Teleport. I help customers with implementing Teleport and follow the best practices to achieve success with access management. Before Teleport, I was a DevSecOps practitioner and I was securing, managing infrastructure for companies like VMware and Cradlepoint. Today, my talk topic is on achieving access management best practices with Teleport. I'll go over some best practices and show you how to leverage Teleport to achieve them. So the first one is use single source of identity. When a user has multiple ways to log in, there is a high chances of delegating wrong access to that identity or a user. I have seen this practice several times where duplicate users are created with different permissions, which ends up in identity silos. How can we solve this? My one-line answer would be using SSO provider. SSO has become the source of truth for organizations, and this SSO will be a source of truth inside every organization. So using a centralized and single source of truth avoids all the identity confusions. Also, managing users and roles are easier if it's a one-day single source, if rather managing it everywhere and all over the infrastructure and systems. Teleport can be integrated with various SSO providers like GitHub, Azure AD, Okta, Google Workspace, OneLogin, GitLab, etc. And SSO can be mapped with roles inside Teleport. When SSO is integrated, try not to use local users. Only if the SSO user is already part of a SAML or OADC provider. If we have both local and SSO user for a single user or an identity, there is a high chances of granting wrong permission, either high permissions or and not enough permissions. Role mapping SSO groups with Teleport roles can avoid all the confusions and the identity silos. A little caveat on this. Certain exceptions can be made for certain use cases like break the glass user. Do not default production or critical infra access. Giving default access to production is a vulnerable practice. At the same time, not giving access to your engineer will handicap your engineer from working on a production issue, or also their productivity might go down. So just-in-time access is a solution for this. So you can use just-in-time access in those scenarios. Teleport has access request features. Through that, you can grant access using just-in-time principles. When a user needs an access, he or she can request and gain access. Access requests can be integrated with your daily workflow systems like Slack, PagerDuty, Teams, Discord, Mattermost, etc. PagerDuty plugin can check your on-call schedule and can grant access based on your schedule. Access lists, also another feature which is relatively new, that can give access to a user, and that can be for a longer time, like for 3 months and 6 months. Audit every action of a user. Auditing is the key component of access management, like who accessed infrastructure, whether it's an SSO user or a local user, what level of permissions they had when they were accessing the infrastructure. When they access this infrastructure, what pieces of infrastructure was accessed, whether that's a server, Kubernetes cluster, database, or an application, and when they logged out. Gathering all this information is crucial and very helpful to maintain compliance standards, investigate on security breaches, and do cyber forensics. Teleport has very extensive auditing capabilities to achieve very granular auditing information. The first one is audit logs. The audit logs aggregate all the access level logs on every infrastructure component. The second one is session recordings. It is an extension of, it is basically a recording of all user actions inside a server. Like whenever a user gets into a server, all their user actions are recorded in a format of video, and that video can be played back whenever someone is investigating on it. The third one is enhanced session recordings. It's an extension of audit logs. It contains more detailed information about what commands were ran by a user on a particular server on a session. You can see a screenshot, which is basically a JSON of an enhanced session recordings. You can send this both audit logs and enhanced session recording to your preferred SIEM, and you can aggregate them and you can run queries on top of these logs. And the last one is moderated sessions. Say you have a very highly critical infrastructure and you need someone to be on the same session, like a security engineer or an auditor, to be present on this mission whenever an engineer is working on that particular piece of infrastructure. Moderated sessions from Teleport can be enforced on those missions, and only if the user, only if the auditor or a security engineer is present on the mission on the same session, the user can access this piece of infrastructure. Don't rely on just perimeter security. Implement zero trust. Before going into the details, I'll explain what's perimeter security. Anything that trusts user based on just checking if the user is inside the boundary network or not is perimeter security. Tools like VPN, firewall, and bastion house comes under the perimeter security umbrella. Unfortunately, perimeter security is not enough. The IT infrastructure today is widely spread, and it is distributed to multiple cloud and edge location. And the workforce is also getting distributed. So it's hard to manage the boundary of the network, and trusting user based on the networks is vulnerable. If an attacker finds a single point of entry into the boundary network, attacker can navigate and gain control over the whole infrastructure because anyone can access any resource inside the boundary network. The blast radius is huge when the infrastructure is only protected by perimeter security. So what's the solution? Implementing zero trust. Zero trust doesn't give any access by default. A user has to authenticate on every level of in resource to gain access into the infrastructure. Teleport by itself is built on zero trust principles. Once the user is authenticated, user will be given access only to the resources based on the RBAC policies defined inside the system. There is no direct access to everything inside a cloud or a network. Trust devices over networks. This is also a subcomponent of implementing zero trust. Rather just trusting the user based on network, we should add additional security by trusting only the connections from trusted devices. Using Teleport device trust feature can register a trusted device and check if the connection is coming from a trusted device or not. Only if it's a trusted device, we can grant access. If not, we can just deny it. Device trust integrates with most of MDM tools like Jamf to enroll all their device in your inventory all at once. Managing through code. Today we manage everything code, right from building cloud infrastructure, CI/CD pipelines, monitors like observability monitors. So why not access? Creating and managing users, roles, and traits can be done through code, and this will help organizations to collaborate, review, and make changes after by having a review process around it. Teleport also can be managed through code by using Terraform provider or a Kubernetes operator. You can create and manage all the Teleport configurations like roles, auth config, resource, auth connectors, everything through code. By doing this, we also maintain a single source of truth for all the config. Never assign user credentials for machines. Machines need access to various machines like Linux servers, databases, Kubernetes clusters, apps, especially your CI/CD systems need access all the time. Do not use your user credentials to give machine to access other machines. You can use something like Teleport Machine ID. It is basically a binary called tbot that can enable secure connection to other machines. Machine ID can be used in CI/CD systems to access Teleport through API, run Terraform on Teleport to manage Teleport configurations. Prompt for MFA often. Prompting for MFA challenge on critical devices adds an additional security on your infrastructure. Teleport per session MFA can be enforced for any production or critical resources. So whenever a user starts a session, it prompts for a challenge of MFA. So it can be also integrated with a lot of second factor hardware devices like Touch ID on Mac, Windows Hello, YubiKeys, and Solo keys. The last best practices that I want to mention is avoiding passwords and shared secrets. Passwords are bad because of the following reasons. How many passwords a person can remember? Sometimes it has to be written on somewhere like a sticky note, and it's getting stolen. SSH keys and kubeconfig are shared between teammates. They end up using insecure mediums. So that becomes a vulnerable practice. User copies a production SSH key onto a bastion host to access a production server. But he or she never deletes that key from the bastion, and that sits up there and makes a vulnerability. Passwords can be guessed. Password works fine even when it's stolen, because we never know if the password is stolen or not, because it's not connected to an identity. Okay, we are clear that passwords are bad, and let's see how to eliminate passwords. Teleport is completely identity based and does not use any secrets. You can eliminate all kinds of passwords and secrets like keys for SSH, shared configuration files for Kubernetes, passwords for applications like AWS consoles, Grafana, passwords for desktops, username and passwords for databases. Users don't need to store or remember any password or a secret when they use Teleport. Authenticating to resources will be based on RBAC rules. Avoiding passwords can also improve productivity. Wondering how? Because your developer no longer need to ask for where a particular SSH key or a password is stored, and also no more need to try multiple SSH keys and see which one is the right one. Okay, we can eliminate passwords, keys, and other secrets to access infrastructure by Teleport. How to authenticate to Teleport without passwords? Teleport passwordless lets you to do that using Touch ID on your Mac, Windows Hello, YubiKeys, and Solo keys. These are strongly connected to your identity, and this cannot be stolen. Thank you. And questions? I'm open for questions.
It's in the crowd. Yeah.
Hi, so we saw this for login in for developers. By the way, thank you for giving the talk. You did a great job.
Thank you.
So we saw this for developers. How does this work, for example, with application IDs or bots? Obviously, a bot can put in a YubiKey. How would I, for example, have tons of services interacting? I want to have them use the teleport, RBAC authentication instead of flinging around secrets. How would I set it up with this?
Machine ID is the one that I mentioned. So you can also use machine ID on a server, and you can run this tbot to grant access to the other machines.
So that's then, so the keyboard would then grant the other
Yes.
machine or the specific process also,
Yes.
or is it only on machine to machine?
Machine to machine, a little bit.
Got it, okay, cool. Thank you.